What is going on, guys? It's Yoji. So you want a build that is not another CI build and definitely not Blade Vortex, right? But it should be able to clear red tier maps, work on a budget, but also have high-end potential once you got the currency. Well, I raise you my level 92 Flameblast Elementalist in Essence Hardcore, which has allowed me to clear up to tier 14 maps comfortably so far, and I plan to take it to kill some tier 16 Guardians too.
But Yoji, Elementalist got nerfed and therefore is unplayable now, and live builds cannot do endgame.
Yeah, right. With the changes to Shaper of Desolation, the build now needs Ignite Chance to reliably ignite enemies. In turn, we get to shock and chill bosses, even if we have not killed recently. Ignites proliferate to nearby enemies with Beacon of Corruption for better AoE clear. Main links for Flameblast in order of importance: faster casting, increased area of effect, chance to ignite, fire penetration, and controlled destruction. For harder bosses, I swap Ink AoE for Conk effect. For enemies and maps immune to status ailments, I swap Chance to Ignite for Elemental Focus. As a weapon, I use a rare mace, with as much elemental damage implicit, fire damage explicit, and cast speed as possible. Spell damage is nice, but not as important as the other stats. This is because elemental and fire damage scale both the Flameblast hit as well as the ignite damage. If I was into buzzwords, I would call this double dipping. Spell damage, on the other hand, only scales the initial hit. As a non-crit build, I use Orb of Storms linked to increased critical strikes and faster casting to proc Elemental Overload. This keystone grants us another more multiplier to elemental damage. Pendulum of Destruction, which I picked up in the Uber Lab, can give us some extra AoE and elemental damage on a timer. As Helmet enchant, I chose Flameblast Damage. You can take Flameblast AoE too, but I did not really feel it was needed personally, and rather have some more damage for boss fighting. This build has a lot of defensive layers, as it is a hardcore build designed to do the highest tiers of maps. Against physical damage, I use Cloak of Flame. The ignite stats are a great offensive bonus, and the 20% of phys damage taken as fire effectively reduces physical damage taken by at least 15% after resistances. This effect goes really well with Paragon of Calamity, because whenever we take fire damage, we then take reduced fire damage for 4 seconds, as well as deal increased fire damage. This Ascendancy node also protects us from rare monsters with Elemental Reflect. These are the first layers of defense you should get online when playing the character. And add a cast burn damage taken Immortal Call setup, as well as Enfeeble linked to Blasphemy on top of that. After that, I would recommend you start saving up for a Rumi's Conconction Granite Flask. Get the highest block roll you can afford. Spellblock does not matter. Once you have a Rumi's, pick up the Alchemist passive nodes to boost its effect even further, and equip a Stone of Lazua to add extra spellblock to your character. At this time, you can add Tempest Shield and Blind to your cast when damage taken setup. The next big ticket defensive item will be a Rathpit Globe. This shield will put you at capped spellblock and very close to capped block chance whenever Rumi's is up. Between Enfeeble, Block and Spellblock and the occasional blinds, you barely ever get hit. A high combined ES and life pool, as well as Cloak of Flame's mitigation and a Basalt Flask, help you to prevent being one-shot. For leveling, I used a +1 Fire Gems Scepter and an Axiom Perpetuum. I used Elemental Overload and procced it with the Orb of Storm setup mentioned. I also ran Clarity for mana sustain, and cursed bosses with Flammability once it became available. The skills I used for leveling were Freeze Pulse and Fire Trap from levels 1 to 11, Firestorm linked with Elemental Focus and Controlled Destruction from level 12 and onwards, until I got to a 5 link and started using Flameblast. For the passive tree, I started out as a witch. I went through the spell damage and cast speed at the beginning, and spec'd into Firewalker for some fire damage and fire resistance. Next, I made my way to Cruel Preparation. I picked up Blast Radius for AoE and Heart and Soul for life and mana. Right after, I made my way over to Elemental Overload, and further into the Templar area, picking up Purity of Flesh for some extra defenses. In the Templar area, I went straight for Light of Divinity, some resistance and damage from Elementalist, all the area of effect I can get, as well as the Templar life nodes. From this point onwards, I went for Explosive Impact to grab that last bit of area of effect and some damage to make leveling as smooth as possible. From here on out, just pick up life whenever you feel you need it, and pick up damage when things stop dying as quickly as you're used to. As always, I will link the passive tree in the video description below. Subscribe for more Path of Exile content. I'm Yoji, and I will see you soon.